before you comment, I lost a bet and I had to shave my beard. So get the laughs out now because that's all you're going to get. Okay? I shaved my beard. I know. I look like I shouldn't be within 100 yards of a school zone. Okay? I look like I'm on that Chris Hansen show at this point. Like, when I shave my beard, bro, it's over. But I lost the bet. I thought the Brownies were going to lose to the Dolphins, okay? I thought the Dolphins had a chance. I don't know why. I don't know why I thought that. My brain thought that. And I made a bet. And shout out to the dude from Cleveland. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to dox him. Who I made the bet with. He won the bet. And I lost the bet. And part of the bet was shave the beard. Anyway, let's talk about Joe Burrow. Ian Rappaport talked about the other day about Joe Burrow saying that he really might, meaning like he really might return. I don't know that it's going to be December 10th. Rappaport said nothing is noting there is no set date for return as of October 20th. My guess is it's going to be the last 2 or 3 games of the season. He has a chance, but if they're still alive, I think we really may see Burrow, which is suddenly pretty realistic, and that would be most dramatic of all things, and that would be very fun. So, let's break this down, right? Because obviously if Joe comes back, we also have another issue. Joe Flacco looks good. And I'm going to assume he's going to look really good and continue to look really good. So we got the Jets this week, and I think we're going to beat this game. We're going to beat the Jets easily. And I think Joe is going to look really, really good in that game. Like, that might be we talk about Joe Flacco being the starter rest of the season type of game. We'll get into it, okay? I think we're going to beat the Bears going into our bye week. After that, I think we'll beat the Steelers again in Pittsburgh. Patriots game's going to be tough. I think we can beat the Patriots with Joe Flacco. I think we'll lose to the Ravens. Again, at that point, they should have their starters back. And they should have Lamar Jackson back as well. So, that's obviously assuming there. We always take care of the Bills. I'm not even going to play with that. Now that we have a competent quarterback, I really think we'll beat the Bills. Now we get into a weird dilemma. It's the last 4 games of the season. And at this point, we would be 8-5. Okay? Now, being 8-5, you kind of want to ride with the hot hand. And one thing I will say is I believe, this is my opinion, Joe Flacco could do that. I think Joe Flacco could do that. Obviously, is it going to be tough? Yes, right? Any game in the NFL, especially this season. This season has been, any given Sunday to extreme measures. You never know what could happen any given Sunday, especially this season. But this is, right now, Ian Rappaport saying, potentially, he come back to Dolphins game, Cardinals game, or Browns game. He's not ruling out that he would come back the Ravens game. Obviously, he could also come back to Bills game and then be the last, 4 weeks of the season. But we're going for a deep playoff run. And again, this is all based on the fact of if Joe Flacco is continuously doing this, continuously winning, looking good, throwing the ball, being able to really move the ball down the field. If he's able to do that, and yes, we're creating this whole entire thing off of one game. I know. It's a very dangerous thing to do. But we have to. If we're at this point in the season, and let's say, Joe Flacco does win us all these games, do you bring back, we're 9-5 at this moment in time, do you bring back Burrow for the last 3 games when you could just wait and have him for the playoffs? Now, obviously, Joe Burrow would be the backup to Flacco for these last 3 games. depending on how the game goes. You know, he might come in, right? Always a potential. But you kind of rather rest him for the last 3 games before you go into the playoffs. The real reason why we need him back, just survive to December, is because we thought with Jake Browning, well, we're probably not going to win many games, but if we can win just enough, we can get to December and be fine. And, you know, at that point, whatever, right? We just kind of barely scrape by to the actual playoffs. We don't really have to worry about that as much, again, depending on how Joe Flacco plays. If Joe Flacco is just going out there and leading the charge, we're not in a moment where we're scraping by to get to the playoffs. At that point, we're talking about, okay, we're most likely going to make the playoffs here. Let's do the smart thing and not force Joe Burrow out there. When once we get to the playoffs, obviously, no doubt in anyone's mind, it's Burrow the whole entire way. But why risk an injury now in the regular season when you don't have to, right? So that is also a thing that, you know, I think is getting floated out there. I get a lot of questions about that in my comment section. Is what happens when you are week 15 against the Ravens and Burrow is able to play? Well, obviously, you're going to put Burrow as the backup, right? And you're going to go with Joe Flacco to start. And the theory would be if Joe Flacco can win you the game, awesome. If you need to put in Joe Burrow, you need to put in Joe Burrow. But it's a luxury that I think many teams have at that point of the season, at the end of the season there. But that's kind of my mindset. Again, do I want Burrow back? Yes. But it's just, I'm thinking about it like, if you have him back for the playoffs, baby, that would be nice. And if you're not worried as much about the regular season because Joe Flacco is capable enough to win these games, then you get into the playoffs and you're like, okay, we don't have to put in Joe Burrow. You know, you don't want to put Joe Burrow out there and risk an injury, right? Now, the last thing I'll say is, you do have the Dolphins, Cardinals, and Browns. All 3 of these teams are not good. Brownies having the best defense of the 3, but Cardinals look like butt. Titans. How did the Titans get in this? The Dolphins look like absolute butt too. So, there's also a factor of you don't want to put in Joe. You don't want Joe Burrow's first game back to be the playoffs also, right? Because then he's going to be rusty and he's not going to have played for like 3 months, and then you throw him into a playoff game for the first time, the tough environment, wild card playoffs, right? It's going to be really like back and forth, crazy things going on. That's not the first game you want him back. So with that mindset, yes, you probably do actually want him back before that. Like, you want him to play at least 1 game before the playoffs. He can knock off that rust a little bit, you know, feel how the toe's feeling, right? So maybe he plays week 18 or week 17. Maybe he plays week 17 versus the Cardinals, right? Could be a lot easier of a matchup. Or maybe he does play Dolphins. Again, now that I think about it, Dolphins probably the easiest matchup, right? Because they don't really have a defense. So maybe he plays the Dolphins game, but then again, then you have the same issue. Then you're sitting him out the next 2 weeks, and now this guy hasn't played in 3 months, and you're not like, that's another factor. That's another issue. Dang. Yeah, because you don't want his first game back to be the playoffs, because then he's going to have issues, right? He's going to be rusty, and you don't want that to happen. I just thought about that point. Do you want a healthy, 100% ready to go, no issues Joe Burrow? Or do you want a Joe Burrow who may be a little bit banged up a tad bit from playing a couple of games, but he's not rusty. He's not, brand new to the game for the first time in 3 months. And then you got to deal with that. That's a lot of factors to look at. But, guys, tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. I'll see you guys in the next one. If we do win all these games, we would be 12-5.